Hello, BookTube. Well, it's Thursday, and for a handful of BookTube channels, that means Poetry Thursday. I am reading this anthology, Modern 20th Century American Poetry, where we are slowly and steadily marching our way towards the apocalypse. We are slowly and steadily marching our way towards the year and the poem that ended poetry as a commercial genre that ordinary people could like or that poets wanted them to like. And where after that it became the ultimate snooty, condescending, gated community and remains so to this day. You cannot make money being a poet in a way that you could in the beginning of the 20th century. The 20th century ended that, and we're getting close to it. We can't put it off for much longer. But before we get there, we have other aspects of this book to deal with. One aspect that we've talked about over the course of the many, many months that we've been reading this book is the dutiful inclusion. A poet who's in this anthology, even though they don't really deserve to be, they just sort of were there. It often is that they were academics. Maybe they were that useless post of poet laureate, maybe something like that. So they either have a renown that leads our editors to think that they belong in here, or maybe they were an instructor for one of our editors, or a friend of the family, or something like that, so that they're in here when they don't really punch at that level. And we're dealing with that today. We're dealing with a poet today called William J. Smith, who was still alive when this anthology came out, and who is the standard curriculum vitae. It's the standard resume. Just one of these gentleman poets that just studied it as a discipline, taught it as a discipline, went from this post to that post, and then went home, had a highball, and wrote a couple of poems, and they were in the well-mannered poetry journals. In other words, no sense of fire at all, just none. And maybe it's a little bit elitist of me, or maybe it's a little bit purblind, but I don't understand reading poets that don't have that. When I'm reading prose, fiction or nonfiction, I am completely blunt and often caustic about an author simply showing up like this without any fire. Ultimately, whether it's prose, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, poetry, no matter what, ultimately, we're all here to read the fire. Those are the books that matter. Those are the books that are worth reading. There's none of that here. This author doesn't have that. This anthology includes 3 poems, which is just exorbitant. We're just going to read one. We'll read Galileo Galilei. This is from 1950. Comes to knock and knock again at a small secluded doorway in the ordinary brain. And that first stanza is meant to continue the title of the poem. The person who comes to knock has already been named in the title. It's Galileo Galilei. Galileo is the one coming to knock at a small secluded doorway in the ordinary brain. Into light the world is turning, and the clocks are set for 6, and the chimney pots are smoking, and the golden candlesticks. Apple trees are bent and breaking, and the heat is not the sun's, and the minotaur is waking, and the streets are cattle runs. Galileo Galilei, in a flowing scarlet robe, while the stars go down the river, with the turning globe, kneels before a black Madonna, and the angels cluster round, with grave uplifted faces, which reflect the shaken ground. And the orchard, which is burning, and the hills, which take the light, and the candles, which have melted on the altars of the night. Galileo Galilei comes to knock and knock again at a small secluded doorway in the ordinary brain. You can see right away a flaw. I don't want to harp on flaws. It's a good poem. I don't want to harp on flaws, but again and brain don't work in the way that some of these things do. And the angels cluster round with grave uplifted faces which reflect the shaken ground. And light and night, of course, and things like that. Some of those do work. Brain and again don't work. But the image here, the idea here, is that Galileo Galilei is knocking on a little door in the brain in order to admit a world of chaos, in order to admit a world in which, what do we know? The shaken ground, right, where the stars go down the river with the turning globe. Galileo Galilei is about to introduce the biggest paradigm shift in human thinking. And to insist on it until he is shut up, until he was told by an organized religion not to insist on it. So the image that governs the poem is good. It's this figure who is knocking on the door of a very comfortable set of presuppositions, intent on opening that door to, what was it again? The apple trees are bent and breaking, and the heat is not the sun's, and the minotaur is waking, and the streets are cattle runs. So the poem is mannerly. It has a steady rhythm and end rhymes, but it is describing a world of chaos on the other side of that small secluded door. That's good. That's good. As an evocation of what Galileo did, that's good. It's not more than good. It's just good. And that is 1950, as if you needed that year to pinpoint this poem. And that is this author. That is William J. Smith. So that's Poetry Thursday for today. We're going to move on next time to a far more interesting figure. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.